Road to Emmaus. What a wonderful story. Several interesting things about this story. First of all is that no one really knows where Emmaus is at. We know it was 7 miles away from the upper room, but you have to understand, Jerusalem has grown so big that it has totally swallowed up that entire area. No one knows where that village used to be. The second interesting thing is that only Luke talks about this story. He's the only one that tells it. In addition to that, he tells it in great detail, more so than any of his other stories. Consequently, this has become a favorite story to people around the world. I love the story as well. I have 2 questions. First of all, what's the situation with those men? Well, in the morning of Resurrection Day, Jesus only appears to women, and they readily receive him, and they believe it. They're able to reach out and touch his skin, and they saw him and talked to him, and they knew he was alive. The men, he appeared to them. They reached out and touched his skin and talked to him and fed him food, and they just couldn't believe. What is it with those men? Well, you have to understand that the Jews of that day, the Jewish people, were looking for a conquering king, not a suffering Savior. Oh, there were over 300 prophecies in the Old Testament about Jesus, and many of them talk about that he had to suffer first before he would conquer. And the people knew this. But during that time between the Old Testament and the New Testament, the people were suffering so much that the message of a coming king who suffered was not encouraging. So the rabbis took some liberties. They said, well, actually, you have to understand, when it talks about the suffering Messiah before the conquering Messiah, the suffering part is you, the people. You will suffer, and then Messiah will come as a conquering king. Well, the people readily received this. This gave purpose for their suffering, is that by suffering they were bringing on the Christ. So they were looking for a conquering king. So the disciples, even when Jesus clearly talked about that he had to go and suffer and die and that he would rise be raised the third day, they didn't receive it. And even here is beyond their comprehension. They had to have a whole paradigm change there, as far as their attitude towards the Messiah and how he would come. Well, the second question is, what's the situation with Jesus? I mean, he suddenly appears and then he disappears, and he appears to some people and not to others, and he walks through doors that are closed, and people see him and they don't recognize him. What's going on? Well, this is a personal opinion. I think in the crucifixion and in the resurrection, we see the humanity of Christ. He is God, but he's also man. In the crucifixion and before the crucifixion, we see him praying, "Oh God, if it's possible, have this cup pass from me." People question, why would he say that? Well, that's what any human would say. Being God, he knew what was coming. Being man, he suffered with it. He did not look forward to it. Now on the other side, on the resurrection, we see a Jesus that's almost giddy. He is really in a good mood. He appears and he disappears. He's really, I think, having some fun. The suffering is over. He's on the other side now. And he also realizes this is the resurrection. This is the event that's central to the entire Bible. He can't help but be joyous and having, I think, a little bit of fun. Well, that's my opinion, and you may disagree. But still, come back next week when we continue on with Story Insights on the Story of the Week. We'll see you next week.